Hello, everyone, and welcome on in. It is time for NFL Week 3, and that means that we are here to bring you some picks. As always, I'm Thomas Viola, and joining me today, Pat Fitzmaurice and Matt Freedman, the Oracle himself. Guys, it's a great day to have a great day on the NFL season here, and let's get it roaring and going today. Let's start off with our first game here. Matt, you are looking at the Patriots versus the Ravens, and the line right now, it looks like Baltimore laying 2.5 in Foxborough. Are you laying it, or are you riding with Belichick and the boys?
Yeah, nothing to get everyone excited by talking about these two teams, the Patriots and the Ravens. I'm going Patriots plus 2.5. Bill Belichick as an underdog, 30-16-2 against the spread, and 5-1-1 against the spread, specifically against Ravens head coach John Harbaugh. And for me, this game comes down to the Patriots run defense against the Ravens run offense. Now, the Ravens, they are getting back number one running back J.K. Dobbins, but it is his first game back from injury. We really don't know what he's going to look like. And, the Ravens, they're, only number 11 in rush rate this year, but they are very much a running team. I guess that's what happens when you have Lamar Jackson and offensive coordinator Greg Roman. Obviously, they want to run the ball given the moves that they made this offseason, namely trading away number one wide receiver Marquise Brown. But I think they're going to struggle in the running game, given that this is Dobbins' first game back. They don't have number two running back Gus Edwards. They don't have starting left tackle Ronnie Stanley. They don't have backup left tackle Jawan James. So with all of those injuries, we have seen the Ravens be really, in terms of efficiency, one of the worst running offenses in the league this year. And the Patriots defense has actually been pretty good. It's top 5 in yards per play allowed and points per game allowed through 2 games. And so if the Patriots can keep the Ravens running game in check, I think that forces them to be one-dimensional. And the Ravens offense has been good through the air, but they've also had a really soft schedule to date going against the Jets and the Dolphins, the 2 worst teams in the league in pass defense DVOA. So I don't think the Ravens passing game is as good as it has looked either. So you put all of that together, and I think the Patriots defense is going to be able to challenge the Ravens offense. And in the preseason market, this number was a pick 'em. I don't think all that much has changed between then and now.
As Kelly Stewart said on our Thursday show, which you can still check out if you want more picks after this, you're not going to get rich laying points on the road, so I'm inclined to agree with you there. Now, Pat, speaking of teams that are going to want to run the football, the Tennessee Titans, I feel like this line has to be a massive overreaction to the bloodbath on Monday night. They are getting 2 points at home versus Las Vegas.
Yeah, doesn't it seem that way, Tom? Like it's a major overreaction to seeing the Titans humiliated by the Bills. And hey, the Bills humiliated the Rams in week 1, and no one's saying the Rams are a terrible team. And look, the Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. And granted, I think we know that was kind of a house of cards, that there are much better teams in the AFC this year. But like, do we really think the Titans are terrible? Like a bottom 5 AFC team? I kind of think not. Like, I think Mike Vrabel is a pretty good head coach, and we have not seen the Titans get their running game going yet. And certainly losing Taylor Lewan for the full season is not going to help in that regard. But I mean, a home underdog against a mediocre Raiders squad, sorry, Raider Nation, traveling cross country for an early start in the Eastern time zone. Like, that's just traditionally a bad spot for whoever the Western team is. But like, for a sort of a mediocre team in that spot and then favored on the road, like, I don't get it. So I'm taking the Titans here.
If you don't think that the early start for West Coast teams is a problem, let me tell you, just early starting a podcast when you're on the West Coast can be a problem. So I don't know about playing a football game here. But Freedman, your next pick here, you're going with the Commies plus 6.5 versus the Eagles. I mean, Carson Wentz, all of a sudden we're looking around and he's top 3 in the league in passing yards.
Yeah, I mean, Carson Wentz, he's not the hero. Tom is the real hero for waking up at the crack of dawn. Some might even say the butt crack of dawn to get ready for this show. Yeah, the Commanders, this line is egregious, and it hurts my stomach to be betting on Washington, but I have to do it in this spot. Nick Sirianni, head coach for the Eagles, 1-4-1 against the spread in division, and divisional underdogs. You know, that tends to be the sharp side, especially early in the season. Divisional underdog in the first months of the season, 205 to 146 against the spread. And for me, this matchup comes down to the interior of the offensive line going against the Eagles defensive tackles, Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. Now, it looks like this is a massive disadvantage for the Commanders, given how great the Eagles are on their defensive line and specifically on their interior. And you have the Commanders without their starting center, Chase Rollier, he's out, and they're without the backup center, Tyler Larson, who's also out with an Achilles injury. And also missing from last year's unit are left guard Eric Flowers and right guard Brandon Scherf. So in week 3, they are starting 3 new year-over-year starters on the interior of their line. And this exact trio has never played together as a unit. That sounds horrible if you're Carson Wentz and you could be facing interior pressure all game long. However, I don't think the situation is actually as bad as it might seem. So you have right guard Wes Schweitzer, who is shifting over to center. He's made 19 starts on the interior of the Commanders line over the past 2 years. So he knows the system. Replacing him at right guard is backup Trey Turner, who was a Pro Bowler, a 5-time Pro Bowler for the Panthers under head coach Ron Rivera from their time together in Carolina. So he knows the system. And then you have left guard Andrew Norwell, who's new to the team, but he's another Panthers transplant, and he was an All-Pro in 2017. Like, he and Turner manned the interior of the Panthers offensive line together for 4 years. So even though it's basically a new unit, new players on the team, you have a lot of continuity with players who know the system. And, you know, without edge Derek Barnett, the Eagles defense is just number 27 in adjusted sack rate. So I think this interior is actually going to be able to hold its own. And like, we know that on run defense, the Eagles, they're bad. Like, they've made a number of additions this offseason to try to get better. Defensive tackle, Jordan Davis; edge, Hassan Reddick; linebacker, Kazir White; drafted linebacker, Nakobe Dean. With all that, they're still bottom 5 in the league in run defense in every key metric. So if those guys in the interior of the offensive line are actually able to win their matchups against the defensive tackles, then I think that Washington offense is going to be much better than people would expect against a good defensive line. So this line was -1 in the preseason, -3 on the look-ahead market, and now it's -6.5. This is ridiculous. It's a massive overreaction to the 2-0 start that the Eagles have and the 24-7 week 2 win against the Vikings that they had on Monday Night Football. This line should be 3.5.
Pat, you know the only thing rarer than good things happening to the New York Jets?
What's that?
2 good things in a row happening to the New York Jets. Let me tell you, not happening this week, and you're right here with me. Bengals -6 versus the Jets is your pick.
Yeah, and I'm glad I've got a cynical Jets fan on my side on this one, Tom. So I think this is just a good spot for the Bengals, a desperation spot. After starting 0-2, they need this one. And like, how much resistance are they going to get from the Jets? I know they've had problems with pass protection. Joe Burrow has been sacked, I believe, 13 times already. They do have a better offensive line with personnel. There's no question about it. But I think it's going to take some time to consolidate the talent and hopefully a few games. Like, we know teams just don't take the preseason that seriously anymore. So they do need a couple of real games to maybe get their cohesion down a little bit. And maybe we start to see that happen because there has been a talent upgrade. And plus, Joe Burrow, not the easiest guy to pass protect for. Like, he likes to hold the ball and look downfield and try to make plays. So I think he's going to make some of those plays. Like, what are the odds, Tom? We saw Joe Burrow with a passer rating of 110.7 last week, like 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. And he played pretty well in week 1 too. Like, what are the odds we get 3 good Joe Flacco games in a row? And for that matter, what are the odds that we get 3 poor Joe Burrow games in a row? It just doesn't seem like that's going to happen. And I just like the Bengals to show their advantage in class this week and just kind of like handle the Jets pretty easily, even though they're on the road. Normally, I just don't like taking a road favorite with this kind of number, like almost a full touchdown. But I do like the fact that it isn't a full touchdown, that it's 6 points instead of 7. If it was 7, I don't think I'd like this game nearly as much.
The only thing the Bengals have to fear is the return of Mike White. But Matt, your next game up here goes with a quarterback who has been all over the news right now because, man, the injury situation, it's not great. Justin Herbert, do you think he's going to play today? The books have adjusted this line from Jags Chargers all the way down. It was everything from, I think we got some 7s, it was 6, and it's moved all the way down now to 3.5 in favor of the Chargers still. Is Justin Herbert playing, and are they going to beat this plucky Jacksonville team?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just planting my flag on this. I think Justin Herbert plays. I don't think there was ever much of a question as to whether he was going to play or try to play in this game. And if he's trying to play, like, that's basically half the battle, because all it is like, hey, we're going to inject you. Hopefully we don't hit your lung the way we hit Tyrod Taylor's lung. And if we're good there, then you're playing. But our medical expert, Deepak Chona, Dr. Deepak Chona at Fantasy Pros, he thinks it's likelier than not that we see Justin Herbert play. So I'm going with that. And if Herbert is playing, I don't think there's any question that this line moves up from 3.5. Like, if Herbert's playing, I think this line should be 7.5 at a minimum. And that's me having adjusted things way down to try to be pessimistic about Justin Herbert's ability to function at normal capacity within this game. Also take into account that center Corey Linsley will be out. Number 1 cornerback JC Jackson will be out. Still taking those things into account, this line should be much higher than 3.5. Head coach Doug Peterson for the Jacksonville Jaguars, 15-25 against the spread on the road for his career. Home favorites coming off of a Thursday night football road loss, 24-15-1 against the spread. For me, outside of Justin Herbert, this comes down to edge rushers Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack going against left tackle Cam Robinson and right tackle Juwan Taylor. I feel like that's all I need to say. Like those two guys going against those other two guys, that is a massive edge that the Chargers have. Number 7 right now, and 9.2 adjusted sack rate, led by Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack in our Fantasy Pros unit power rankings. We have the Chargers number 3 in defensive line strength. We have the Jaguars offensive line at number 24. Just massive advantage that Bosa and Mack have over those guys. And again, I do think that Herbert plays. The look ahead line on this was 9, even adjusted down, assuming that Herbert isn't full strength. If he's out there, he's still better than the 3.5 that we have in the market now. And I think this number would go back up to at least 6, maybe 7.
You want to talk about some overreactions. I think the reaction to the Jaguars just trouncing the Colts was a massive one. I fully agree with everything you're saying here. But guys, 2 of the teams that we expected to be 2 of the worst in the league have pretty much been just that. The Seattle Seahawks take on the Atlanta Falcons in Seattle. They have 1 win between them through 4 weeks. And really, I don't think it's come from the more impressive team. Seattle got the win in the Russell Wilson Bowl, but Atlanta stayed tough with the Saints. They were winning and just collapsed. And then they had a furious almost comeback versus the Rams the next week. Pat, you're looking at this game. Who are you taking? It's a 1-point game in favor of Seattle.
Yeah, the Falcons have been plucky so far, but I do like Seattle to hold serve at home here. And the 1 win was Seattle beating Denver, a team that they were, thought to be clearly inferior to. But the 12 sort of carried them through in that first game. And I think that happens again. Like we're seeing Atlanta travel cross country, really make one of the farthest trips you can possibly make to go up and play in the Pacific Northwest from the Southeast. Like as much as I dislike this Seattle team, and I don't think they're very good by any means. Like I think we are maybe seeing a little bit of overvaluation of the Falcons based on their start. And, like we really haven't seen them get Kyle Pitts involved in the offense. Like it hasn't been a very creative offense for them so far. I mean, Drake London sort of popping was interesting, and maybe Drake London has a big game against the Seattle corners who are not very good, but nor has Atlanta's pass defense been very good so far. Like in most metrics, they are like bottom quarter against the pass right now. So I kind of think this is a good spot for maybe DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett to get on track a little bit. I don't know. I just like, I don't see this game as the near pick'em that the odds say it is. Like, I think Seattle at home, even though this is not one of the vaunted Seattle teams of the past, 10, 15 years. I just think this is a bad spot for the Falcons.
I'm actually using one of my survivor picks on the Falcons this week. So we'll see. I'm going against you here, but I'm going gusty with it. Now, guys, we're going to get into some totals here. But before we do, I want to remind you to check out the BettingPros app. When you're looking for free picks and sports betting advice, BettingPros.com has you covered with tips from over 150 experts to make it easy for you to cash out. Download the app to get sports betting alerts. You'll get notified of favorable bets based on line movements, consensus picks from the most accurate experts, and vetted systems in play. Betting Pros monitors all of the major sports books, most accurate experts, and top systems to identify the best betting opportunities. So download today in the Apple or Google Play stores. And guys, let's try and get out here with some totals now. We've got the Vikings and the Lions, your first one here, Freedman. Line's looking around 52.5 right now. What are you taking?
Yeah, I'm taking the under there. A pretty simple thesis. One, it's a divisional game, so those tend to have lower scores because the teams are familiar with each other. Two, this is a high total, and scoring has been down by about 5 points per game this year, and that will likely even out at some point. But the scoring environment has been restrictive, and we should adjust our assumptions because of that. And then number 3, through 2 weeks, both teams are more vulnerable via the running game than the passing game. So not quite to the level of a run funnel, but I think in general, if coaches can run the ball against opponents, they will run the ball. And the Vikings are number 32 in rush DVOA defense. The Lions are number 23. I think both teams will lean more into the running game than what we've seen in the previous weeks, and that will result in a lower scoring game overall. So I have this closer to like 51.5.
I think that's very reasonable here. The Rams and Cardinals are at 48.5. Pat, are you going under or over in this NFC West matchup?
I'll go over on this one, Tom. And we saw these teams score 57 and 53 points in the regular season when they played each other last year. They did meet again in the playoffs, and they combined for 45 points in that game. So not too far off this total. The Cardinals right now are 7th in offensive pace, and the Rams are 11th. So this should be a fairly up-tempo game. And we've got Kyler Murray against Matthew Stafford. Like, that's a pretty good matchup of quarterbacks. And to get this total under 50 is kind of a bargain, I think. And we also know that the Cardinals' pass defense is not very good. Their defense overall in general. And yes, it's a little better with J.J. Watt healthy and playing, but still below average at best. So I do think we're going to see some fireworks in this. And I just think there's value getting anything in this game under 50.
Matt, cue the MASH unit theme song because the Bills defense is decimated with injuries right now. And this total is just a sky high 53.5. You have it. It's 54. You can find a 54 number in some places. Are you going over in this points fest that we're expecting?
No, I'm going under. I'm a wet blanket over here. I'm always going to be going under for the most part. Yeah, under 54. And it's, again, a simple thesis, really similar to the one I laid out for the last game. Basically, everything applies. Divisional game. So I think, two teams familiar with each other. It's a high total. So I think we should just be a little bit skeptical about that. And then, as you mentioned, the Bills are missing a ton of players. Defensive tackle Ed Oliver and defensive tackle Jordan Phillips. They're both out. Defensive tackle Tim Settle, he also might be out for this game. They're definitely without their two safeties, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. So they are down significant run game defenders. And I think the Dolphins will try to run the ball on the Bills to control the clock and keep the Bills offense on the sideline. And with the total this high, it doesn't take all that much for the under to hit. Really just kind of like one thing needs to go differently than people would project. And I think the Dolphins running the ball more than expected will be enough to get this to the under. So I have it at 50.9.
Pat, how about you? The line is moving in a friendly direction for Matt. Are you agreeing with him on this?
I do. I think with Poyer and Hyde out, people are envisioning Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, running deep, waving their arms like, hey, I'm open. There's going to be no one over the top to prevent big gain after big gain. But we all should also look at the pace in this game. These are two of the slowest paced teams in the league right now. The Bills are 25th in seconds per play, and the Dolphins are dead last. They are taking a leisurely 31.05 seconds between plays. So, in addition to the reasons Freedman gave, I think Hyde and Poyer are sort of the headliners for injuries on the Bills defense. But those losses up front might tempt the Dolphins to run. And as Freedman said, keep that Bills offense on the sideline and sort of avoid, you're definitely, there is incentive to avoid a track meet with the Bills because their offense is just fine. And, Miami does not have an airtight defense. So I do think they at least pay lip service to the run today and make this maybe a slower paced game than people are expecting.
As a Jalen Waddle fantasy owner, I certainly hope for the track meet here, but I think that is a very high amount of points. And you guys also think this next game up, more agreement here because the Raiders and the Titans, 45.5 is the number. Matt, we'll bring it back to you here, but you're going under as well.
Yeah, again, wet blanket here. And Pat mentioned, being bullish on the Titans here. And, one way the Titans win, it always helps the underdogs if a game goes under, just, fewer points to be scored. And so I'm going along with that. The Titans, I think they aren't really all that great at moving the ball. They've struggled the past couple of weeks. And I think they also might struggle to stop their run. They're with without three of their four edge defenders. And they also might be down a starting linebacker. So you just might have two teams that are looking to run the ball a little bit more than people would expect and not able to do so all that well. So I have this at 44.5. And I know Pat is also on the under here.
Yeah, Pat, you're not giving us much conflict here for the show with this agreement.
No, I feel like Freedman's kid brother tagging along with him on, I only like 4 totals this week, and 3 of them I'm in lockstep with Freedman, those 3 unders. And the only way to get any differing opinion with Freedman on totals is to like an over. So at least I gave us one over that I liked. Yeah, Titans, Raiders, like these just haven't been very good offenses. We've got the Raiders ranked 24th in offensive DVOA and the Titans 29th right now. The Titans are 30th in offensive pace. They like to go slow. We know how they want to play. They want to run the ball and occasionally hit you with play action. Neither of these teams has scored more than 23 points in a game yet. Like this just does not have the feel of a shootout. And I'm a little surprised the total is where it is. Like it feels like a low 40s total to me, and to get it at 45.5, it seems like there's some value there.
Now, guys, before we get on to our Moneyline Underdog Parlay of the week, I want to remind you here, you're already here, so you might as well enter our contest to win a signed Joe Mixon jersey. If you want to win, courtesy of our friends at Pristine Auction, you need to subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel right now. Comment below this video, and that's it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure you turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and claim your prize. Guys, you're already here. You might as well hit that subscribe button. Give us that like too. You know it really does help out the show. And for now, it is time. Let's talk about a little two-teamer here that we can make out of the 2 of the dogs that we've got going today. Matt, what is your offering for our Moneyline Parlay of the week?
Well, I mean, we talked about the Commanders earlier, and that's where I got to go. In the spread market, this number's been sitting at Eagles 6.5 all week, and it didn't move to 7. No sharp money looked at that line and thought, we better grab this now before it hits the key number. Like that is the sign that the Commanders are the sharp side. And the books, all of them have held the line at 6.5. So I have this at 3.5. And if there's value on the spread, then there's value on the money line. I think this number should be closer to plus 180 to plus 200. So to get it at plus 250 at PointsBet, I think is a pretty good value. So that is what I'm taking.
Believing in Carson Wentz is a bold proposition, but we'll see if it pays off for you. Pat, how about you?
First of all, didn't we hit this last week, Freedman?
Yes, we did.
We did. So,
yeah,
and we almost hit it in week 1, if not for the tie. You had Texans over the Colts, and we got a tie there. So we've been really close on these. People need to start following us. So I'm going to take the Lions here, even though I don't love the Lions as a standalone underdog bet in Minnesota catching 6. I do think there is some interesting money line appeal here at plus 210, I believe. Like we've seen the Lions be plucky. They are not punching bags anymore. Like this is a different Lions team, and like their offense is tough. Good offensive line, like a lot of weapons. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's had like 8 or more catches in 6 straight regular season games. They can score with anyone, and I think we're seeing the Vikings maybe a tad overvalued still from the way they handled the Packers in week 1 at home, and maybe this is a bounce back spot for them after getting beaten up a little in Philadelphia on Monday night, but they are coming off a short work week. And it wouldn't shock me at all if the Lions made this like a really nip and tuck game and pulled it out at the end. So I do see a little bit of value there. And plus there just aren't that many big dogs this week. So, they're one of the few with better than plus 200 odds. So let's try this, and it'd be a pretty nice payout to get these 2 teams connecting.
I like it. I got to say with Pat, I like it a lot.
I like it too. I mean, anything can happen in these divisional games. A lot of people taking the Vikings as their survivor pick. I think we could be primed for an upset here. But guys, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in and following along with us. If you want more picks, of course, check out Thursday's episode before we get going with the slate here. But that is going to do it for us for now. For Pat and Matt, I am Tom saying let's cash some tickets this week. Good luck, everyone.